Hello, everyone. So, to start everything off, welcome to the Children of the Sugar podcast with me, Yasmin Nicholas, and who's interviewing me is the lovely filmmaker and artist Judah Attille. So, as part of my background, I come from Northwest London, Brent, Kensal Green. I've been here nearly all my life. Came here 18 months from Kilburn. I've always been in Brent. Um, with my education background, I also went to uni in Middlesex University from 2012 to 2015. So I've had a vast amount of experience within education. And for this Brent Biennial, I was commissioned to do some work with Brent 2020's London Borough of Culture, in which I was able to do 10 pieces that would be put around the Borough of Brent as a site-specific project. And what was great about it was that I was able to meet various people from the borough, shop owners, people who had their own businesses, and it was quite fun trying to kind of like see what they were thinking about when it came to our borough. However, obviously due to COVID-19 guidelines, a lot of the things that I did want to do were kind of disrupted. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. It was basically really interesting just looking at different scenes from Brent, trying to kind of find out what Brent means to a lot of the people who reside here as well, and just exploring the element of home. So from market stalls, I was able to hear different stories, but also, really being able to see what the culture of cultures meant as in our borough, because we have a fruitful amount of culture in our borough, and it's so wonderful to see the amount of different artists that reside here and the amount of different imagination that resides here as well. So I'm gonna hand off to Judah Attille. She's gonna introduce herself as an interviewer. Judah.
My name is Judah Attille, formerly known as Martina Ateel. I'm currently a final year doctoral student at University of the Arts London. My training is supported by the consortium TECHNE through a studentship made possible by funding from the Arts and Humanities Research Council. In 1988, I made a film called Dreaming Rivers, a 30-minute film for the collective Sankofa Film and Video. Sankofa Film and Video were based in Camden during the time of their operation, and the collective members of Sankofa were myself, Isaac Julian, Nadine Marsh-Edwards, Maureen Blackwood, and Robert Cruz, and we made our first feature together called The Passion of Remembrance in 1986. So I'm really interested to know why it is Yasmin uses the themes and why is she works with the imagery she uses to tell her stories, and why these stories that she tells are important enough for her to commit to the life of an artist in order to tell those stories. So Yasmin, thank you so much for inviting me. I must say that I'm really keen to have Yasmin's voice lend itself to the commentary throughout, because her voice, I think, gives a lot of information in relation to the images that she's presenting here.
Okay, so let's start this. So what we'd also be talking about is my work with different materials as well, and the link that I use with the Wob Douye within my work and the ancestral character, I also link that with as well. I started using the ancestral characters within my film, Sequence to a Dream. And it was a thing where I really wanted to kind of start using it because it was something I had seen a while ago. My late great aunt had all of these beautiful dresses that she used to use when she used to do the quadrille, which is a traditional dance stemming from Dominica and a few other Windward Island countries as well. And what happened was that I was so intrigued by it that to me they seemed so colourful and beautiful, and I really just wanted to create some work with it. So with me and throughout my work, I have quite a vivid imagination, and I wanted to use these particular dresses in particular settings as well. So to start off with the traditional wob, the wob is the Creole word for robe, and it was introduced to the Caribbean within the 18th century due to English and French colonies that settled in the Caribbean. And what happened there was that the slaves that were in these countries were able to kind of wear the dresses on particular best days, you know. And I really wanted to kind of bring that back to surface in a modern world. We do, obviously, due to different things, different society events such as Miss Wob, you basically have your Wobdouye and you have to do your dances with it. And it's almost like a pageant, but with traditional dress. And I was so intrigued by it. I really wanted to use the materials and the dresses that I had gained from my late grandparents' friend and try and create modern pictures with them as well. So like the one that you can see right now, it's a dress. It's not of madras material. However, it is in the traditional wob douye style with the buttons in the front, also the scarf that you would tie and tuck in around the waist as well, and a traditional hat that has the 3 peaks on there. Sometimes it can have 1 peak, and I was told that 1 peak is if you're single, I think 2 is when you're married, and 3 is, I think it's just how you are, you know, kind of like come out as you are, you know, like I can't exactly remember 3 is, but yeah, you have all of these wonderful sentiments behind these, you know, these dresses, you know, and obviously with everything as in its background, obviously due to um, colonial days, obviously it was a lot different back then. But these dresses, they worked so well within this work that it was a thing where I just continued creating more work with it. And the ancestral figure I used within them was a symbol of guidance in a way. She's there to kind of more or less guide me through my work, but as a symbol of guidance to the not just the narrator, but to everyone in a way, seeking their culture and also somebody being there to kind of help guide you through it as well. So it's been quite playful, just kind of trying to discover what she could look like. So from there, I've just kind of been changing things around, including different scarves, including a veil as well. So for me, the veil that I had used within some of the pictures, while with her wearing it, is kind of like a symbolization between the veil is kind of like the thin line between the living and the dead as well. So I wanted to kind of include that type of religious imagery into that as well. Through my Finding Home series, through that and my Sequence to a Dream film, which were both done in 2018, I very much wanted to put those dresses in a different space, in an urban landscape, you know, somewhere as kind of dreary and dark sometimes as London, you know, and these colourful dresses created such a contrast. You know, I just wanted to make sure that things looked completely like they were both opposing, however at the same time they were also able to make these landscapes beautiful with the colors of these dresses as well.
So, yes, I mean these wobs are, as you say, really colourful, and they stand out against the monochrome of the estate in a really dynamic way. And I'm just mindful as I look, you know, beyond the beauty, that those traditional outfits from the Caribbean really are connected to a past era when perhaps women in the Caribbean who dressed in this way were not as independent as the women who wear the costumes now for your performance. They perhaps were not as independent as the women who wear these costumes with pride as cultural costumes in the present day. And I'm mindful that these costumes aren't historically neutral, that their history is linked to a history which is more complex than one that we can just fully appreciate through the beauty of the costumes. But for me, the wob is still a very, very powerful image, and it's something that resonates with me as a filmmaker. And when I made Dreaming Rivers, there's a scene in Dreaming Rivers where the main protagonist, Miss T, she opens her wardrobe. And it was really important to me at the time that the items of clothing you saw in the wardrobe were very sparse. There was hardly anything in there. And I wanted to make that empty wardrobe contrast to the image of the raffia bag, the straw bag that is visible in the wardrobe. Because to me, I wanted to make a connection between clothing and aspiration and belonging and success. And the emptied wardrobe for me was a symbol of perhaps not achieving as much as one would hope to achieve in a country which promised to have streets paved with gold, where people could make their fortunes. So that's a point I wanted to make in that clip. And I wonder if I could just share that clip with you.
Yeah. even like seeing that box that said Saint Lucia, you know, that little handbag, everything, that even the whole aesthetic of like what she's wearing, that's very colorful. It's like she's immune to English culture in a way, you know, like even that small clasp of home that she keeps in her cupboard, you know, is important while she's still searching for her identity here, you know, as like a woman and a mother sticking and longing for her mother country. You know, it connects very well with somebody who is also trying to discover themselves while being from a foreign country rather than their motherland, but trying to figure out who they are within these two, you know, identities. You know, which one do they fit better into? And with Sequence to a Dream, Sequence is more of the narrator doing that, in the fact that she is basically being guided through the entire film by free spirits who come to her on South London estate to basically let her know that everything she is searching for is inside that person itself. In that clip of Dreaming Rivers, it's quite dark, and it is quite dark, and not even just in physical lighting, but emotionally as well, because it's this person who is longing for something to remind her of her mother country, you know, and having like the empty wardrobe and turning from Dreaming Rivers into Sequence to a Dream, you have these free spirits who are boldly wearing, you know, these dresses that do come from colonial history. However, kind of turning the narrative in a way in which Caribbean countries themselves have with the Wobduyes, and wearing it with a sense of pride. Unknowingly, this was a sequence to a dream. My eyes closed to open my window to see a bright set of lights dancing in front of me. Swish, swish, colours that could blind you and bind you at the same time. How wonderful was the sight of my ancestors visiting me in the daylight. I said, this cannot be real. No way. But a draft from the ancestors asked me to stay. Awake I lay, or so I believed, leaving accompanied thoughts astray. They danced around, sharing visions to come. The vibration struck through me like a smack to a bongo drum, while they hummed, speaking tongues of the ancestors past. Could it be? At last I'm getting to know me. The one in the green proceeded to twirl and sway. Her dress pecked the ground that dare not stay beneath her. Her eyes, rays of sunlight, beamed with assurance, a light that crooned on a gloomed Monday morning. Dear ancestors, guide my hand while I live in this foreign land. Remembering I did bring on this calling, they spun outwards, singing offerings, running rings. It seemed in a day autumn had turned to spring. As I stood awake while asleep, they danced deep into conscience, within the garden they call mind. They laughed, it seemed they sprouted flowers within their path. The green moved around, over to greet. She told me what she brought was belief. Belief in my past, belief in myself, belief even through strife in this play we called life. The checkered other brought love. It was as if she threw kisses from above. She knew of love that's free, and told me love that will come to be. The last in red was knowledge. Her words built a bridge of understanding, hidden codes which ignited when she touched my forehead. Important she was. Like a gust of wind they came, and so they left. A colourful gust they were. They left one by one until there were none. And I lay, knowing this was not fake, and finally, never feeling so awake. For my next film, Black Bear, that's going to be shown. I created that in 2014, between 2014 and 2015, early part of it. And what happened there was just spending a lot of time with my grandparents when I was younger. And I wanted to kind of capture my granddad talking to me about patois.
You want me to cut more? Hey, I think I've got all day to do this. More?
Turn it round. Yeah.
This way?
Yeah.
So this way?
Mm.
That way?
Yeah.
Okay. That brown bit in the middle?
I don't mind. I just need it.
Assume you no longer do not have.
So, do you feel more comfortable speaking in Creole or English, and why?
Créole, moi ça mène n'importe conversation, créole, c'est pas toi. Mon lévadin, moi c'est mon connaître mon parler. Moi ça insulter mon adin aussi tout. C'est pour ça mon fait si mieux, si mon rappelé. L'anglais sont des différents bagailles. Qui mon qui parle anglais, c'est mon qui passe à parler pas toi. Mon qui parle anglais ben. Mon levant en patois, so mon qui si mieux parler converser en patois.
Wapé.
Guapin, big pair.
Boire pain.
Wapé.
Wapé.
Yeah.
Say we should read it.
I'm lost for it. Margaret?
No, you're not lost. How would you cook that?
Moi, dès que vous rôti, bois pain.
Roasting.
Rôti bois pain.
Roasting.
Les fanny. Les mots fanny, moi caché zaboka pour manger avec.
Saboka. What's saboka again? I know what zaboka is.
You know.
Yeah, but I can't.
Vous connaissez ça qui zaboka?
Yeah, I've heard you use the term saboka before, and I can't think of what it is.
Zaboka is papo.
Papo.
Not papo, not papo, not papo. Not papo. I got myself confused.
Saboka. What's saboka again?
Zaboka is pear. Pear.
Avocado.
Avocado.
Avocado pear. Okay.
Oh.
I know, yeah. I've heard him use the term avocado.
This is people do that, especially the guys who used to saw the wood.
Saw the wood, okay.
Yeah, they use that. They roast their breadfruit, but they, apart from roasting it, they always have avocado pear there.
Avocado
These
pear.
people eat like God.
And no meat.
Well, if they get meat, they get meat. If they don't get meat, that one stop. And these are people who eat a lot, you know.
Okay.
C'est moun qui ka mange en chay manger. Bois pain, yo ke voler manger ou tout. Avec fouiller puis yo manger.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. We have two in our parish where they were terrible. Terrible.
Ça fait moins la peine, ou de quoi ça doit. Moins doux à chaque moi, ou de dire oui sans vrai. Si moins doux pénètre moi, ou de quoi ça doit. J'en ai à seulement, pas qu'à tel amour pour rien. Ça fait moins la peine, et oui ça doit. Ça fait moins la peine, et oui ça doit.
For this section, we'll be talking about the Brent Biennial, which is going on until from September to the 13th of December. This is the mixture of the breadfruit still that I did for the film Metaphors back in 2015 and Well Woman Services back in 1986. Well, I didn't create that, but that was from the archival images. So thank you again, Brent, for letting me use those archival images as well. Wonderful work. The two corresponded well as the image of the four ladies from the Well Women's Services and the work with the breadfruit image from my film, just because of where it is, especially Kilburn. You know, it's such a place of many different ethnic backgrounds, and it both symbolized the many identities of migrants and also foods that have come from different countries that are brought into our communities as well. You know, so I would have actually loved to have seen this in a place like Harlesden as well, because it's so rich in food and culture. This particular piece, this is situated in between Bromsbury and I think just the top of before you get to Cricklewood. And I really feel like, obviously, a lot of people who'd be able to see it are a lot of the people who are driving into Kilburn, especially if, you know, they're looking at clothes and everything. You know, this is kind of like an invitation right into Kilburn for the many different type of shops that you'll find there. This particular installation is actually in Church Road, so which is a great placement because it's on its way to Harlesden. People who are on their way from, say, coming from Willesden Green can see it, or vice versa. So last but not least, this is another piece from the Children of the Sugar Project. It's called Higher Basketball Boys, obviously, as you can see. And it's placed on Harlesden High Street. With these particular installations that were placed around the borough, I really wanted people to kind of interact with them. Where the specific pieces, which is on the Harlesden High Street, usually away from this picture, it's normally filled up with so many different people, you know, of Caribbean origin or descent. You know, the bar behind it is normally a place where people kind of go up to meet, drink, even sometimes after funerals there are wakes there. So around that same street there's always kind of like a hustle and bustle where people are very social. So I'd hope that my work would kind of be captivated by those people, you know, in which they'll be able to kind of like talk to their friends and look at the image and see, you know, an image of themselves, you know. I feel that there needs to be a lot more great attention to the borough's culture and the people who make it. So what we're going to be talking about are the actual poems on the artwork that is featured in my project. I'm going to read a verse for you guys. Higher, higher, look at how you've grown. Higher, higher, reach, you are not alone. Higher, higher, like a redwood tree. Did you know you can be free? Did you know who you are is who you need to be? Like a butterfly that survives past November, in your full glory as a monarch. Your tongue holds the future, the mind goal marks its path, and these words breeze around whoever's in its wrath. The ancestors tapped in, I discovered the rest is me, to come to terms through all this time, a voice that is free. This particular picture itself, it has three young gentlemen playing basketball. The royal carpet, there's a red carpet lined out for the main baller who's about to score, hopefully, a slam dunk. But also flowers that are on there. I wanted to kind of put something out there in which people were able to see their royalty, you know, that your life means something, you know, everything, that this whole construct with the poem and the image is about you elevating and knowing that you are somebody who matters. I think to myself, where would I be if my family decided to stay and leave London astray? I dream of dreams to be there. The simple life that I'm aware is a mango sweet feeling I have longed to bear. The line that says is a mango sweet feeling, I really just want the person reading, experiencing it, you know, to kind of have that taste in their mouth, you know, for them to kind of, you know, like really enjoy the poem like they were enjoying, you know, a piece of fruit, you know, that they're really understanding it, trying to connect with it in a certain way. The last part of the poem is on top of the image of the breadfruit still from the film Metaphors, and the Well Woman Services archival image from 1986. Again, thank you to Brent Museum. I'm going to read out the last verse to you guys for back home. The breadfruit is the forgotten, the breadfruit of the old, the breadfruit of the begotten, the breadfruit untold, an unsynchronized identity of which I feel has been placed upon me. Though suddenly, my granddad will speak to me through stories that are free to take me home where I have never been. My granddad, who used to tell me a whole load of stories about everything that went on back home, in which you could then kind of visualize everything in your mind about how things were. That kind of complexity in like having an imagination of a place that only you can imagine in a certain way. It might not be the way that you've imagined it, like in real life, but this is what all these different stories and parts of culture that you kind of piece together is kind of giving you a kind of vision within your mind that this particular place looks like, you know, or is like anyway. It kind of talks about an identity that has kind of like been placed upon a person and they're still trying to figure themselves out. So for this particular poem, Fingerprints, this was created in 2020. And I would say out of all of the 4 poems I did, it was probably the most radical. So I'm going to read this verse out. The time will approach where tongues will weld together, the youth then will rise, through darkest of periods, speak the revolution. Right now, a pandemic of problems within a pandemic, and a sweet candy apple lining promise of maybe and what's next. So obviously, how everybody is dealing with this pandemic is in different ways. However, there's still such a kind of darkness and unknown about it as well. And obviously everybody's emotions are in different places, you know. We're being told one thing and another thing, you know, and I really felt that this poem really fit with an image of it fit very well with the image of the backdrop of Wembley Stadium, because it's very much a kind of united place, you know. As I said, the youth then will rise, you know, that's like really kind of like, it kind of gets at you where people will collectively come together and people are collectively coming together to find out truths about different problems that are coming from this country, you know, especially the youth. So people who are in their like 40s downwards, you know, they're finding out a lot more about what kind of goes on within the government, and people are very much in a thinking space right now, you know. Obviously people have lost their jobs, people are at home, they're starting to research about things. So me dropping the line, a sweet candy apple lining or promise of maybe and what's next, it very much speaks to the government, in which we're being handed out more or less, you know, little things of maybe something encouraging, but then something else, and then there might be something encouraging, but they don't completely know the answers of everything yet. So everybody kind of is sitting in a certain way. It's always good to stay positive, but at the same time, there's a type of limbo about some of these issues that I feel like need to be handled.